Daily questionnaires, readiness apps, player load. What are we going to discuss today? Really, the art of coaching. Hey, this is Joe Big House Kenn, and welcome to another episode of Words Win Wednesday. Gotta say it, like and subscribe. In this era of sports performance, strength and conditioning, athlete wellness, data is all we hear. How many miles per hour does so-and-so run? What's their player load? Do we need to give them time off? What's their VBT scores? What's their readiness app say? We're looking at all this data, and I'm not telling you the data isn't important. I'm doing deep dives into VBT data right now, and those numbers tell a story. And I'm trying to figure out the most efficient story to tell to benefit the athlete and the coaches. What I see happening now is most of the data being evaluated, we are spending too much time staring at screens and numbers and not enough time staring at the athlete. What do I mean by that? Keep studying the data and not building relationships with the athlete, and I think that's an appetite for destruction. Because in reality, the athlete doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And building a relationship based off communication, trust, honesty, that comes over time. And during that time, a lot of times if you do it right, these athletes will give you the information that the data might not actually say. So the relationship part of this is huge. This is why I always go back to the art of coaching. The data tells me some of the story. The athlete tells me the real story. Sometimes it's as easy as looking in an athlete's eyes when they walk into the building that day. And again, this comes with coaching age. And I think a combination of training age and coaching age is imperative for a strength coach to have a positive outlook on what the athlete is trying to accomplish and helping the athlete achieve their goals. Training age to me is important because most strength and conditioning coaches are going to have done some type of time in the weight room. So a lot of times when you're prescribing different movements or different programmings, you may have done that at some point in your career, or you still may be training similar to that. So you have an awareness of what the athlete could be going through. The coaching age is slightly different. It's a little bit more difficult because as you grow as a coach, your ability to read people will improve. Early on, I wouldn't be able to tell you much about what I see with an athlete as I can today. And it's no different than when I talk to athletes who are just starting out versus 10-year vets. I don't want to say it this way, but if you're a rookie, I'm telling you what to do. If you're a 10-year vet, you're kind of telling me what you need to do. And that's the process of relationships because of experience. So the more experience that I have as a coach helps me be able to visually see or hear what I hear in the locker room or the weight room or the practice field, helps me build my assessment on the athlete, and the data could support it or tell me a different story. We cannot be deliberately pushing data on these athletes. They're not robots. They're human beings. They have emotions. Too many people who are driven by data, to me, tells me how well are you building a relationship with the athletes. That's the key to it. When we build things out, I always look at it from what's my gut going to tell me. That's right. I'm going to go on what my gut, based off my experience on the floor and my experience as a coach on the floor. And that's why I use the Kenny Rogers term with a little bit of spin on it. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and sometimes you can push all in. What do I mean by that? I'm going to look at what I control in the environment and what's in the best interest of the athlete, especially in season, to get them to the competitive stage with as much fuel in the gas tank. When I'm going to hold them, that means it's going to be status quo. The auto-regulation and the communication with the athlete says everything's rolling pretty good. We're just going to keep the machine rolling. We're going to ride a steady wave. When you know when to fold them, that's kind of when things aren't looking too good. You can see it in the athlete's face. You can see it in the athlete's performance. And that's when sometimes you're going to shove them out the door or push them out the door. Tell them the best training session for you today is a rest day. See you tomorrow. We see it all the time in professional football. Athletes get vet days from practice for recovery. Well, why can't the weight coach give them a vet day in the weight room for recovery? Because in the end of the day, I'd much prefer them to get reps in the practice field than I would in the weight room, because we're all getting evaluated on what happens on Sundays. Sometimes I'm going to push all in. And what does that usually happen? In our on-site work, our on-seasons, winter development, summer development, when it's not competitive, and we're going to go OTS off the script. That means if the athlete's rolling, I don't care what it says on the paper, we're going next level. And the athlete's excited to do it, because when they hear OTS, a lot of my athletes know that means it's go time. So know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to push all in. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a simple mantra to use when you're evaluating your athletes when it comes to health, wellness, preparation, and autoregulation. This is key. Talk to the athletes. Communicate with them. Don't just bring them in there and start pointing at a computer screen, pointing at numbers. Hey, look, your load's here, your load's there, your load's there. No, ask them, hey, man, how you feeling first? And they say, oh, by the way, check this out. This kind of correlates to what you're saying today. What happened outside the facility? Is anything going on that could affect you? Why the performance is slipping, or why you don't feel the way you should feel? You can't just ask them about what happens in the building. You got to know at least a little bit about their family lives outside the building. This is coaching. This is the art of coaching. This is being a practical-based coach. It's not just collect data, and keep collecting data. And again, I'm going to say this time and time again. I don't know how many people are actually understand what to do with that data. This is still very young in the United States when it comes to team sport evaluation with data. I mean, we started tracking GPS in 2013 at the Panthers. That is only 13 years ago, so a little bit more than a decade. That's not a lot of time. And a lot of these are still trying to evaluate taking data and metrics from other sports and how it fits into American football, so to speak, which is another problem I have with the way things have been, just throwing darts at a dartboard, hoping something hits a bullseye. Is that really how we want to invest in our athletes? Do they deserve to be invested that way? So again, I don't want to get onto a rant, but I do think in this day and age, coaches need to take a step back, use the data for its value, but let's get back to building relationships and coaching again. That is the key. That's one of the great things about being involved as a strength and conditioning coach. You touch these athletes more than any position coach or head coach can. And the key is why? Because you love what you do. And if you love what you do, shouldn't you invest in the athlete, not in the data? I know you need a dashboard. I know we need to look at player load. I know we need to look at yardage. I know we need to look at high-speed running. I know we need to look at ACell, decel. I know we need to look at peak velocity, average velocity, training intensity, all that stuff, step balance, all that stuff matters. But it doesn't matter at all if we don't have a relationship with the athletes. So know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to push all in. That's on you, the coach. Start taking the time out to understand the skills necessary to be the best coach you can for your athletes. It's not staring at the iPad. I promise you. Before there was iPads, there was coaching. You coached on motivation. You coached effort. You coached intensity. You had cues to get guys fired up, get women fired up. They wanted to come in the facility because you built an environment and a culture, so to speak, wanted them to come and train. And now they don't want to train if you're just going to rattle off a bunch of numbers because the dashboard spit them out for you and you just want to post numbers all day. Hey man, I know it's cool to run 24 miles per hour. I'm never going to do it. So yeah, that's cool. I like some of that reward-based, incentive-based stuff. But at the end of the day, I shouldn't say, oh man, that's so-and-so. He runs 23 miles per hour and his readiness app says he's good to go. No, hey, that's a good guy right there. That woman right there, she is a baller. That's what it should come down to. Hey, I'm still ranting. Sorry about that. Hey, like and subscribe. And as always, words win. We'll see you next week. Peace.